looks like we are live, everybody. Let me stand up here. All right. Welcome in, everybody. Happy Thursday. As always, my name is Saxon. I am your camera host. I've been teaching this class for about 3 years now, 2 years. Every week during the month, or every Thursday during the week, we do a camera class. The camera classes have different themes and different ideas behind each one. Today being the fourth Thursday of the month, we're going to be doing Beyond the Traditional Cameras. Pull that up for us so we can get an idea. So, let's quickly review everything. So in the intro camera class, we talked about cameras as a whole, but more in the more basic and rudimentary sense. We talked about them as a tool, as something that we could use to accomplish what we're doing, yet we don't necessarily know how they work fully, so we shoot with them in the automatic setting. The reason we shoot with automatic is because the camera will do a majority of the work for us, and we as learning photographers will let the camera do it and learn from it. Intelligent automatic is fantastic, especially for new shooters. The newer controls on these new cameras do a really good job when you let it go by itself. In the intermediate class, we stop with the automatic stuff. We're photographers, we've been learning, we've been practicing. We want to do things in more of a full manual control. That's where then the intermediate class came in, and we talk more about those features and functionalities. In the advanced class, we talk about photo editing. We talk about the important things to note when taking photos and first getting into photography, and also to what you should know about photo editing, how that all comes together. We then get into more advanced accessories and equipment that you, a photographer, might need. And last, in our Beyond the Traditional Camera class today, we're going to be looking at cameras that don't necessarily qualify as your traditional mirrorless, DSLR, or point-and-shoot/bridge camera. I want to look at the cameras that are going to be more of your specialty ones. Things like drones, GoPros, camcorders, 360 cameras. Cameras that don't necessarily, that don't necessarily mean that you're replacing what you already own, but cameras that can add another piece of equipment to your tool belt. Why do we want to go past these types of cameras? Why do we want something like this? Portability and travel is a huge aspect of this. They're lightweight, they're easy to bring with, they're durable. You can take a beating onto them, you can put them into high stress situations, you can be not fearful to use your camera like you might be to use your expensive mirrorless or DSLR in certain situations. Durability with these smaller cameras also comes waterproofing. A lot of the technology we're looking at today is water resistant or proof, which makes it really, really durable. Recording time is extremely important on these. If you're used to shooting on your camera, you might be limited on how many minutes that you can record for or how many seconds. With these new cameras, with these toys, or these new tools I should say, you have the ability to get really good recording time on there, if not unlimited, depending on the battery life. And with the drone models that we'll talk about at the end, we are in this as well too. Drones offer the ability to fly. So now we can fly or record over great distances without even needing to be present while we're doing this. It's really amazing feats and cool tech like this that go a long way. Just like the intro class, let's start at the beginning. SD cards. Make sure you have 2 of them. The reason I say to make sure you have 2 SD cards is because these things are fragile. They can be susceptible to breakage. They can stop functioning after a period. It'd be a shame if you went to a shoot and you had only 1 card and it failed on you and you weren't able to complete the job or to take the photos or video that you want to do. Now, in these cameras, majority of the cameras we're looking at, exceptions maybe be the camcorder, all of these cameras are using micro SD cards. Majority of your cameras will not come with micro SD cards. You will have to buy them separately. The reason that these are important is because this is your main storage. This is your only storage for a lot of cameras. So most of these cameras have some to no internal storage. When you're picking out a card, I'd recommend getting something with a good read and write speed. And at minimum, you should have at least 64 gigabytes or higher to save the information that's coming in from your drone or from your camera or from your camcorder. Also, to anyone watching at home, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to chat live while I'm talking. Your picture shouldn't live on your memory card. The whole purpose of a memory card is it's a transportation method, if you will. If your pretend like your SD card is like your car. If point A is your house and point B is work, your car is the facilitator to get you from point A to point B and from point B to A. In the world of cameras, the micro SD card or SD card is no different. If your camera is point A, then your computer or laptop would be point B. Your SD card is going to get you in between from point A to point B. That being said, we don't live in our cars. If you do, I hope you do that out of choice. But we don't live in our vehicles, nor should your photos live on the memory cards. The idea is that these can then move in between the two different devices, and you can transfer the information from one to the other. This way you're saving your images or your videos into a secondary location and reusing the card as a tool. Here's the step-by-step process I follow and I go through every time I download my photos onto my computer. To make sure I don't lose them, I start by landing the drone or turning off the camera unit completely. Once I've done that, I'm going to wait about 5 seconds, then remove the card. I'm going to place that card into a card reader. And the best practice is always to remove the card. You try to avoid using the camera to send pics to and from. However, some of these apps and services these programs and cameras have do make it really easy for you to transfer from one device to the other. Don't be afraid to use them, but I always recommend downloading them this way because this way you know you're getting the best quality, you're not fudging the resolution, you're not ruining the images that you worked really hard to take. Not to say that the phone or the tablet or the computer or that the digital transfer will, but it can happen. And this at least then gives you the backup to having the better quality one. Use a good card reader. There's a lot that exists out there. Find one that's good for you. There's ones that are the shape of USBs. There's ones that will charge your camera batteries or your camera as well while you're downloading your information. There's all sorts of different card readers out there, so picking one that works best for you and how you're going to use it is always my high recommendation. So the next thing we want to do is copy the photos once we've then got them onto the computer to a destination folder. We can label the destination folder anything that we like. I particularly am anal about how I do this, and I like to make sure that my my folders, my destination folders, are labeled based on the event I was shooting. So if I was recording videos of Lake Michigan on today, August 28th, I might go back home and download all this stuff onto the computer. When I'm copying it from the card, I'm going to label the folder I'm using Lake Michigan, August 28, 2025. Now in the future, if I want to find that, maybe I won't remember the date I took pictures. Maybe I'll think, it was in July or in September, but I'll remember it was of Lake Michigan, so I can Google that, or I can look it up on my computer, and I can find that. Or let's say I can't remember that, but I remember the date I went out. I went out on August 28th to take photos, so I could type that into my search bar. Using Explorer, I would use Windows, or if I'm using Finder, I'm on Mac. I can look these things up and find the photos in a reasonably quick time. The reason we do stuff like this is to make it easy for us to find in the future and to make it so that way we have backup copies. And that's what the second line, number 6, goes into. We're going to copy our photos to a secondary location. Once we've labeled them and put them onto the computer, let's put them on an external hard drive of some sort, or maybe try a photo sharing website like Google Photos, or Prime Photos or Google Drive. Ways for you to store your images and your hard-earned images, your photos, all on one central area. The goal is to have 2 backup copies. One that's going to be on your computer, and one that lives in a folder, either in a hard drive or in some form of cloud-based solution like Prime Photos or Google Drive. From there, then, we want to make sure we eject the card before physically removing it. We don't want to just pull the card out. We want to make sure we safely eject it so that way the card doesn't become damaged while we're moving it. And then we're going to format the card in the camera. We don't want to erase the card or erase it in the reader. It's better to format the card in the camera. This way we prime the photo, we prime that SD card so it works specifically for the unit that we're using. In this case, it would be whatever camera that you're putting it into and formatting it on. But again, real quick, just to summarize what we're doing. We're taking the card and we're inserting it into the computer. We're downloading that information onto the computer. Once it's been downloaded onto the computer, we want to copy those into a secondary location to keep them safe. Prime Photos is a great example, or a hard drive of some sort is a great example. Any which way that we can do in order to make sure that we have a backup in case something were to get lost or damaged or misplaced along the way. So that's what your backup plan is. I do think trying cloud-based solutions are a good idea. I want to stress that I personally am a hard drive guy. I have multiple hard drives at home that I'm constantly updating and going through. However, I think it's really important that as photographers, as people with technology, that we do experiment and try different things. Cloud-based solutions are fantastic. If you are someone who likes to edit, Adobe Creative Cloud's great because you get their photo-based storage or video storage and their editing system. OneDrive is great too. If you have a Microsoft Outlook or Office for work, then you can use OneDrive. Google Drive, if you have a Gmail account of any kind, for sure you're probably familiar with those services as well. Now let's go through a tour of your device. I'm going to break down a bunch of different devices out there, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why I think they should be important to you. As this is going, the idea is you guys can chime in, ask questions as you have them, but I'm basically going to give you kind of a rough idea of how these cameras work and what features you should be expected to see when you're purchasing them. Let's start with our GoPro or action-based cameras. So real simple, there are 2 buttons to this camera. The top button, which is your capture button. This is going to take a photo or start or stop your video. On the side of the unit, you're going to have a power button. By holding this button down, you're going to power on and off the unit. Then you can also toggle between things like time-lapse, photo, and video. The screen of this camera, of the GoPro, is the most important aspect of the camera. Without the screen, there isn't much that we can do. The screen is going to give us a whole bunch of different controls and options so we can customize our video experience, such as frames per second, or FPS, angle and lens millimeter size, the video quality, 1080, 2.7K, 4K video, hindsight, hyper smooth, which, and I should say this, hindsight is the camera's ability to focus in on people or subjects. Hyper smooth is the stabilization built into the camera so it doesn't look shaky. Your front screen will show you your duration of your recording time, and it can also be used for a selfie mode. It's a great way for you to see what you're recording without having to flip the camera around or just pray on a Hail Mary that the camera is doing everything that you want it to do and hitting the right the right angles. The three modes that you can toggle between using the button on the side are photo, which allows you to capture stills and frames, time lapse, which will record a longer video, could be hours, could be a day, and then it'll shorten that video up within seconds or a minute to really show you what happened that whole day over a period of time. It's really cool. Video is just what you think it is. It's a standard video, so it won't take pictures, but it will allow you to use new features on the camera like hyper smooth or hindsight, which really can increase the video quality. Now here again are some examples of why I like the GoPro a lot, or why I like action cameras. The way to really think about these cameras is that they're unique, they're durable, and they're meant to take a beating. But what they're out there to do is to capture your best moments, your fun times that you're doing. You've got the surfer on the top who shows off the waterproofing and the durability of that as he tries to catch a wave. You've got the motorcycler who's got all the dirt on the camera and the lens and still falls, gets back up, the camera's still in working order. And in the same boat with the lacrosse. He's running around, bouncing, hitting people, but the camera's doing its best to keep stable, and it's also doing its best to stay locked onto the target, even as he pushes that person to the ground. So really, why do we use an action camera? And I think the best way to think about this is, imagine taking your expensive and brand new mirrorless camera and strapping it onto your chest and doing the same thing. You would never. The reason being is that you would never put your camera in that area of risk. Your camera's not also built to take on those situations, but something like an action camera is. So if this is a camera that you could use on your next vacation, or on your trip, or maybe with the kids at the lake one day, or maybe you're just goofing around with the missus or with your friends or family, and this is an added experience that can capture the moment, this is a really fun, easy, portable camera with thousands of different accessories out there that you can purchase and use. It's extremely easy to use, it's versatile, it's durable. There's a lot of really great things I can say about the action camera, but if this fits your bill, this would be a great piece of equipment to add to your camera arsenal. Drones. Drones are always a huge area of topic, just because of how, number one, powerful and playful they are. They're also an area of controversy because of the U.S. government, China, and a few other things as well too, which I'll talk a little bit about. But I think drones are one of the best and most unique cameras that you could purchase on the market nowadays. The way that I look at it is that a drone is truly a way for you to capture a video or a still in places that you might have never been able to do before. There are lots of different drone styles on the market. There are a lot of different drone types. On a consumer level, for those of you out there who are looking to buy them, the only one you're going to see is the quadcopter, which is a great example of what you're seeing on the screen here. All of these drones are what you consider quadcopters because they have 4 blades. Now, drones out there are many different types. There are single rotors, which will look like a typical helicopter. There's the quadcopter, which is the most popular style of drone sold on the consumer level. There's the FPV drone, which needs goggles to fly, but typically will only come as a quadcopter. Cinedrones, which fly as a quadcopter, but they have a high quality camera and tracking feature. The hexacopter, it's a 6-bladed copter. It's great for filming and stability within the air. But now typically with this is you're only going to see these in movie sets and with highly trained and experienced pilots that have full licenses to do this, only because of the weight and the significance of how big this thing is. But the shots that it can do are pretty amazing. And then lastly, a fixed wing rotor, which is more of a plane experience. So if you're not someone who wants to fly a helicopter, but you do want to fly, then you might be more of a fixed wing rotor style plane. Now, when you buy a drone, you're going to get a controller. Some controllers are going to be pro-based controllers with a screen built in, and some of them will require your phone. Not only is that to help with the cost and make it so that there are packages and bundles available for all types of people, but there are examples for why they're different. The drone will require some form of screen to be used. However, the one that has the screen built in basically means that you won't have to use your cell phone. The other one, on the other hand, you will have to use your cell phone for it. Now, on the controls itself, there will be certain things you have to get used to with them, but most controllers, if not all controllers, will do these exact features, or these exact same things. So control sticks, one joystick will control the up and down movement as well as rotation. The other will control front to backwards and side to side. Antennas, you're going to point those outwards, and these are the connection point between the drone and the controller. Your gimbal dial, it's rotational control over the drone's camera. The record button, clicking this will record and take pictures. Focus and shutter, this will give you the ability to refocus on what you're filming or shooting, or it's going to give you control over the shutter. And then finally, the RTH button, return to home. This gives you the ability to send the drone to where it took off from, an immediate land. However, don't do this on a moving object, because if you are moving, it's going to go back to where it took off from. So if you're on a boat and that boat moved, the drone might go right into the water. So just keep that in mind. Be smart about it when you're using it. While this is an easy and fun toy, it is easy to get into trouble with, and there are a lot of rules and regulations. Before I talk about that, there are things you'll see on the screen. So not only are the controls and everything else important, but the screen, much like the GoPros and action cameras, has a lot to share and tell you too. So example, distance from you and the drone shows on the screen. The altitude of the drone. The ability to switch between photo and video. Map with geofencing and surrounding area. Active track, cancel or start. The RTH button. And immediate land. So again, while you're flying, the screen is going to have the ability to give you information, just like the controller is as well. Now this is more of the political side of it. This is more of the legal mumbo jumbo that you do need to know so that you are protected not only just for yourself, but the key with drones is the public safety. Anything that they are showing with the permits and with the FAA and with flying guideline regulations really comes down to protecting you, the flyer, so you don't injure other people. Because with these drones, you can really hurt someone. So really, two types of permits you should know about at all times. Now, I did write this about 2 years ago. Things have changed, but the meat and potatoes of this have not. So, what is the FAA? It's the Federal Aviation Association. The airspace that we fly in, that we do everything, is controlled by the FAA. Meaning that your local state government doesn't necessarily have control over these regulations. These are federal mandated laws and revisions that are being controlled by the FAA. Two types of permits you should be aware of. One of them is the one that requires, that's required if your drone is over the weight of 249 grams. That is just the simple registration of your drone. You go to the FAA.gov website, you pay about $5. This will do a course and some information that you should read about flying. After the completion, you're going to write out that permit number on a note and stick it to the drone. This way, if you were ever stopped or people grabbed you and they wanted to look at your drone and confirm that you were up to date on your legal information that you need to be, they could then see and find it through your serial number on the FAA.gov website. If your drone is under 249 grams, you don't need to register it technically, but you can if you'd like to. There is no benefit to registering other than the information they provide you with the safety and how-to of what you should be knowing while flying. And the most important thing, though, is are you doing work for business or pay? The best way to answer this question is the video for myself, or am I using this video to monetize or to do work or to give to someone else? Well, then Part 107 is probably something you need to look into. Part 107 is your ability to fly a drone and to actually legally make money off of this as a drone pilot license. This really is your way of protecting yourself and your business and everything else. This basically is a form of almost insurance, if you will, and there's a lot of information you can read onto it. With drones, there's insurances and other policies that you can take out elsewhere. But at least by doing this course on the website of the FAA.gov and flying, going through the whole process, you're ensuring that you are an experienced and well-off pilot that knows the full rules and limitations to your product, but then also, too, won't put other people's lives in danger. If something were to happen, you are protected to some degree. Now, the last thing I'll talk about on this is the geofencing. It's a virtual wall. The drone will not allow you to push forward or fly in this area, and typically the fencing exists by airports, government buildings, national parks, and certain cities and properties. I experienced this when I was in Arizona. I was flying and I got really close to a marked Indian reservation, and the drone actually would not fly into that zone because of its geofence. Lastly, I'm going to show you a couple images and some videos here of the drones in action, why they're so cool, and just kind of what you could expect from them. A lot of these drones have active track features where you can follow someone. A lot of these drones take these beautiful wide-angle panning shots. The distance that it can get into the air is unbelievable to capture what it can. Now, the one thing I will mention to you guys, and I think it's really important, is to understand that within the U.S. Government and economy right now, drones are kind of hard to come by. I don't really know when that's going to get better. Now, right now with DJI, they have not been allowed to sell drones in the United States for a little under a year now. We've been waiting on getting more information on that getting resolved, and it looks like they're providing all the paperwork that the U.S. government needs, so we're hoping to see more DJI products like drones come back into stock, hopefully within the next year or so. So 2026, we're hoping to see something, but we're not 100% sure. It's not anything that we really need to worry too much about. It's nothing to do with tariffs. This happened a while ago. There were some labor concerns, but DJI has since patched, given all the documentation and concerns that they've needed to really help get this fixed and figured out. So we're hoping that as a company, as a store, we can start stocking DJI products, DJI drones, I should say, within a year, but we'll see. If you can get your hands onto these, though, I do think drones are one of the most exciting camera pieces of equipment out there on the market because of not only how versatile they are, but just the fact that you can get photos or videos in areas that before may have seemed never possible. And I think that is the coolest part about these types of cameras. Camcorders. It might seem silly, but camcorders do make a comeback here and there, and really what they're making a comeback for is the video-based or the video-centric shooter. A lot of camera companies are now creating FX or Cine versions of their camera. Canon has one, that was the R5C. Sony has them, that's their FX cameras. Nikon just acquired Red not long ago. Panasonic boasts their video features inside their cameras. Hasselblad sells cameras that are video-based. And Panasonic still does make some camcorders that we sell today. So does Sony make a few still that are kind of in continuation if you can still find them, I think. But really what we're trying to get at is video-centric cameras. Someone who doesn't necessarily need to take still images, their main primary focus is the video. So things that you can expect to see for camcorders: the power button, the record button, your zoom toggle, a dedicated photo button, focus knob or dial, iris or aperture control, shutter speed, white balance, and playback controls. Camcorders, guys, for the most part, are no different than your traditional regular mirrorless or DSLR camera. The only big difference is the grip. They're more ergonomic for the hand shape to then do more of that kind of grab like a football and then hold and shoot, much like the traditional camcorders would look like. But what does make these a little bit different is that their settings are geared towards video. Now, these settings you might find on your mirrorless or DSLR camera, but they're primarily settings that you find with video-centric cameras. So on camcorders, you should be able to play with video quality, setting your camera for HD, 4K, or any other qualities your camera is capable of. Image stabilization, setting your camera to have image stabilization on to ensure you have a non-shaky video. Face detection, most camcorders will have an auto face detection, which depending on what you're filming can help keep humans in focus. Your frame rate, the rate at which you're capturing frames or your video. Lesser rate for is better for simple or standard videos. Faster rate's better for your sports, your action, your slow motion. Bit rate is in that same kind of area, but this is for information coming into the camera. Setting this will help take in more information. The higher your bit rate goes, the more your camera takes in. Just remember that you have to have a memory card that can back that up. And lastly, exposure control. So controls the darkness and lightness of your video. It's very similar to exposure compensation, stuff that we've been talking about within the mirrorless and the DSLR cameras prior. Why use camcorders? Again, there's not too much with it, because if you've been here before for the mirrorless and for the DSLR conversations and talk, then you're very familiar with how this works. The only thing that makes this different is that this is video oriented. So the accessories they make are more cinematically based: microphones, grips, handles, those sorts of things to make your life of holding these chunkier, bigger cameras easier. They make it more ergonomic so that it fits around the hand a little bit better to point and to shoot. It's more cinematic as far as what you're able to capture and get. There is a more, there's just more to it, if that makes sense. It's a little hard to explain. When you see it, the control, the ability to control exposure, to control your brightness levels, to get your zebra on there as well too, stuff like that really helps and really comes out well with these camcorders. So it does make video not only just easier, but it will make your video pop more. So if it is something that you're interested in and photo isn't really cutting the bill, FX cameras or cinema-based cameras are too much. The good old-fashioned camcorders that they're still producing come in at a decent price point for what the quality of video they provide is. And last on our Beyond the Traditional Camera kind of talk is going to be the 360 camera. 360 cameras are the hardest camera for me to talk about because it really is something that you must experience as a whole for yourself in order to fully understand why and how. To give a little bit more description to the how and the why. Works and functions like all other action cameras. So it's like a GoPro, it's like a DJI Action or Osmo. Has two 180-degree firing cameras. So the camera itself is not shooting at the 24 millimeters. It's not shooting at that more semi-wide angle. This is going for the full 180. And not only that, but there are two lenses, two cameras firing at the same time. Now, for those of you out there who want an action camera, but you also like the idea of 360, well, you can use it like an action camera, where it only will work with one or both of the lenses. You can control and customize that. Next, you also, if you have a new selfie stick or one of the extension poles, that can actually become invisible or hidden because of the seam line within the two 180-degree cameras. This will create a third-person view unlike anything that you've ever seen. Videos can be fully viewed unadulterated in a VR headset, where you can actually twist and look around and see the environment as if you were walking through it right then and there. And they're small, they're compact, they're durable. That's really what we're getting at when we look at these things. They are fun, new, futuristic cameras that offer a new, fresh perspective while we're shooting, and they take really fun videos. First and foremost, as you're recording, the idea behind these is to shoot first, think later. It's one of the first cameras that has a dedicated app service that will allow you to customize everything up to the focus point. You can set the focus point after you're done shooting, so that way you customize the video to be exactly the way that you want it. The app is super easy to use, it's free, you can download it on your computer or on your phone or iPad. The videos can look as simple as the video in the top right corner, but they can become even more complex, like some of the images that I have on this slide here. But again, what is the point of something like a 360 camera? It's not necessarily made for everybody. It's not necessarily going to be the perfect aspect for your perfect film that you're making. But if you're trying to put together some fun content, you're trying to make something that's cool, creative, and unique, different, something we've never seen before, these are really fun, easy ways of doing that without necessarily having to buy a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 camera. This is something that's super easy for content creation on social media, but can also be used to add a little extra pizzazz in a video that you're working on too, because of how the form rate and the actual frames work on this. So, a lot to unpack with these, a lot of fun that you can have when using a camera like this. Now folks, that is all I have for you. This is typically our shortest class of the month that we do. This is the fourth and final class of the month, beyond the traditional camera. Starting next week on Thursday, we are going to do our intro to photography, probably one of my most popular classes that I teach here. That'll be our ability to go through and talk about things like where the buttons exist on the camera, what does each button do, and why does that really matter to someone like you. I'm going to stay on the line for 4 or 5 more minutes, everybody, sorry. And if you've got any questions or comments or concerns, feel free to ask now. But if you'd rather wait, you want to ask later, feel free to take a picture of my email, my phone number there. Call or email me anytime. I'm here in the store every day except for Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So I'm always happy to answer your call and see what you need, or at least email you and talk to you a little bit. So I'll give it another 4 or 5 minutes, guys, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. doesn't look like anybody has any questions for me. So I guess that might be where I end the class for today. Next week, guys, is our first Thursday of September, so we will be doing our intro to photography next Thursday. So I just want to give everyone the heads up. September 4th is going to be intro to photography. So this upcoming Thursday from 5:30 to 7, I'll see everybody here who wants to for our intro to photography. As always, everybody have a great weekend. Keep shooting photos, keep doing what you're doing, and I'll see everybody next